Israel strike kills 11 on Syria consular annex. Xi Jinping hails ties with Indonesia during Prabowo visit. Good afternoon and salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching World Today with me, SAHIH Samsudin. Israeli airstrikes destroyed the Iranian embassy consular annex in Damascus yesterday. According to Syrian and Iranian officials, a top Revolutionary Guard commander was among 7 members of the force killed amid worsening regional tensions. Israel said it would not comment on the reported attack, but Iranian officials vowed a stiff response with fears of even further violence between Israel and Iran's allies triggered by the Gaza war. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps named Brigadier General Muhammad Reza Zahidi, another high-ranking officer, Brigadier General Muhammad Hadi Haji Rahimi, as among 7 of its members killed. Britain-based war monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said 11 people, including several Guards members, were killed when Israeli missiles destroyed the building of an annex to the Iranian embassy. Security personnel shielded the site where earth-moving equipment was brought in to clear the debris and remove charred vehicles from the road outside, watched by a crowd of onlookers. The targeted building is next to the Iranian embassy, the front of which is decorated with a large portrait of Qasem Soleimani, the architect of Iran's military operations in the West Asia, killed in January 2020 in an American drone strike in Iraq. Israeli forces on Monday pulled out of Gaza's largest hospital complex after an intensive 2-week military operation, leaving behind charred buildings and bodies strewn at the sprawling complex. The health ministry in Gaza said after heavy Israeli airstrikes and tank fire, the scale of the destruction inside Al-Shifa medical complex and the buildings around it was very large, adding that the hospital was now completely out of service. Israel said it had battled Palestinian fighters hiding inside Gaza City Al-Shifa hospital, killed at least 200 fighters and recovered large stockpiles of weapons, explosives and cash. Battles have also flared around other Gaza hospitals almost 6 months into the war, which have destroyed swathes of the besieged coastal territory. The Hamas government press office said the army had blown up more than 20 houses within 24 hours in the main southern city of Khan Yunis, where battles have raged around the Nasir and Al-Amal hospitals. US, Qatari and Egyptian mediators have long pushed for a ceasefire and hostage release deal, but Hamas official Osama Hamdan said there is no talk so far about any new round of negotiations. UN agencies and humanitarian aid groups have warned that many of Gaza's 2.4 million people are on the brink of famine, and donor countries have sporadically trucked in and airdropped food. A second ship carrying relief goods via the Mediterranean was just off Gaza's coast on Monday, days after leaving Cyprus. Israel's military campaign has killed at least 32,782 people, mostly women and children. North Korea fired a ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan, also known as the East Sea. The launch comes less than 2 weeks after Pyongyang state media said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un had overseen a successful test of a solid fuel engine for a new type intermediate-range hypersonic missile. Japan also said it appeared North Korea had fired the missile, adding that the country's Coast Guard believed the missile had fallen. Tuesday's launch is the third ballistic missile test so far this year, after Solid Fuel 1, overseen by Kim in March, another tip with a maneuverable hypersonic warhead in January. The North claimed last year it had successfully tested its first solid fuel ICBM, the largest, longest-range category of ballistic missile, hailing it as a key breakthrough for the country's nuclear counterattack capabilities. Solid fuel missiles do not need to be fueled before launch, making them harder to find and destroy, as well as quicker to use. So far this year, the nuclear arm, North, has declared South Korea its principal enemy, jettisoned agencies dedicated to reunification and outreach, and threatened war over even 0.001 mm of territorial infringement. 5 people were found dead on Monday in the Haitian capital, Port-au-Prince, after reports of heavy gunfire in the streets approaching the National Palace. 4 bullet-riddled bodies, 3 men and 1 woman, were lying on the ground in the capital's relatively upscale Pissionville suburb, which gangs have threatened. At least 1 other person was shot dead amid fighting in the capital's Dalmas district. Civilians rushed to escape gunfire in the capital, where rival gangs are vying for controls of turf while the state remains largely absent. 3 weeks after Prime Minister Ariel Henry announced his resignation with no successors in place. Haiti has been facing a worsening conflict with alliances of gangs vying for control of parts of the capital and attacks on the airport and main port blocking access to key goods. Impoverished Haiti has seen escalating violence since late February when armed gangs launched a coordinated offensive and demanded Prime Minister Ariel Henry resign. A Russian court yesterday extended until 5th June the pre-trial detention of US Russian journalist Alsu Kumasheva, who faces 15 years in prison on charges of spreading false information. A journalist at the US-funded Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty RFE-RL, Kumasheva was arrested last year for failing to register as a foreign agent. RFL-RL said she was subsequently charged with spreading false information under new censorship laws introduced after Russia launched its military offensive on Ukraine in 2022. Kumasheva edited a 2022 book titled Saying No to War, a collection of interviews and stories from Russians opposed to Moscow's campaign against Ukraine. RFE-RL on Monday called her imprisonment outrageous and said she had been locked up simply because she holds an American passport. Kumasheva, who lives in Prague with her husband and 2 children, had her US and Russian passport confiscated last June after traveling to Russia for a family emergency. That charge carries up to 5 years in prison, while spreading false information has a maximum sentence of 15 years. Kumasheva is the second US journalist to be arrested in Russia since the start of Moscow's military offensive in Ukraine after Wall Street Journal reporter Ivan Gershkovich. Temporary channel open in Baltimore Harbor. Stay tuned. Chinese President Xi Jinping praised ties with Indonesia on Monday, laying out a vision for regional peace as he met President-elect Prabowo Subianto amid tensions with other Southeast Asian neighbors. Prabowo is making his first visit to a key trade partner of Jakarta since his victory in election last month. China is one of the biggest sources of foreign direct investment in Indonesia and has poured billions of dollars into projects in the archipelago nation. Xi told Prabowo during talks in Beijing on Monday that bilateral ties have entered a new stage of jointly building a community with a shared future. Xi said China is willing to deepen all-round strategic cooperation with Indonesia and build a China-Indonesia community with regional and global influence and make positive contributions to regional and world peace and development. Chinese companies have plowed money into the extraction of Indonesian natural resources in recent years, particularly the nickel sector, where Beijing's spending has stoked unrest over pay and working conditions. Jakarta inaugurated Southeast Asia's first high-speed rail line last year, also a multi-billion-dollar project backed by Beijing. The friendliest contrast with Beijing's fraught ties with several other Southeast Asian nations, particularly the Philippines, over territorial claims in the disputed South China Sea. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi begins his 3rd term this week, buoyed by massive fresh financing, but experts say the road out of economic crisis will still be long and arduous. Sisi won December's presidential election with 89.6% of the vote, standing against 3 unknowns. He is set to begin his 3rd term officially on Wednesday, with local media reporting that he will swear the oath before Parliament the day before. This 6-year term is set to be the 69-year-old last unless another constitutional amendment again prolongs his tenure. pundits have speculated about a potential cabinet reshuffle as Cairo struggles to contain the fallout from 2 years of punishing economic crisis and dire foreign currency shortages. Analysts said the Arab world's most populous country seemed to be hurtling towards default and economic collapse before it suddenly received more than 50 billion in loans and investments. Within weeks, the United Arab Emirates announced a 35 billion land development deal for Egypt's Ras Al Hikmah. The International Monetary Fund more than doubled a 3 billion loan, and the World Bank and European Union inked fresh financing agreements. Turkish opposition candidates and voters were celebrating Monday, a day after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's party suffered a stinging defeat at municipal elections at the hands of the centre-left CHP. With almost all ballots counted but official results not yet announced, the Republican People's Party (CHP) defended a claim not just major cities but also expanded into territory in some Anatolian provinces that until now were thought to be securely in Erdogan's hands. It took 35 of Turkey's 81 provincial capitals to just 24 for the President's Justice and Development Party (AKP), with pro-Kurdish party them taking 10 and 2 for Islamist party Yenidin Refah, a new appearance on the political scene that helped SAP-AKP support. Top urban centers Istanbul, capital Ankara, Adana, Bursa and Antalya were among municipalities to elect CHP mayor Sunday, less than a year after the knockback of a failed presidential challenge last May. Observers called it Erdogan's worst election defeat since his party took power in 2002. Erdogan, who came to power as Prime Minister in 2003 before becoming President in 2014, said in early March that these municipal elections would be his last. The 70-year-old leader nevertheless told dismayed supporters overnight that they must not waste the 4 years remaining before the next presidential vote. Jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his wife had their 14-year prison sentences for graft suspended by a Pakistan High Court on Monday. Khan has been tangled in more than 200 legal cases since he was ousted in April 2022 in what he said was a campaign to keep him from power. The Islamabad High Court dropped the pair's sentences from an anti-corruption court over selling state gifts with an appeal against their convictions pending. Khan was already jailed and barred from standing for office when he was hit by a trio of sentences in days before Pakistan's February 8 general elections. His wife, Bushra Bibi, was also sentenced over graft and a marriage the court said came too quickly after her divorce and breaching of Islamic law. Analysts said it was a bid to seal the sidelining of the former Prime Minister and his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) party from the poll. Khan, 71, remains jailed on 2 other cases, including treason and illegal marriage with sentences stretching up to a decade. Despite a crackdown of arrest and censorship, candidates loyal to Khan won more seats than any other party but fell far short of the majority needed to govern. Peru's prosecutor's office has ordered President Dina Boluarte to present any Rolex watches in her possession after a raid on her home and office as part of a corruption probe. Boluarte, 61, is being investigated for alleged illegal enrichment and failing to declare several luxury watches which she has been spotted wearing since coming to power in 2022, following her predecessor's arrest. The prosecutor's office said the President of the Republic has been formally summoned to exhibit the Rolex watches when she gives her sworn statement on 5th April. The statement from the prosecutor's office said that officers had not found the luxury watches during a dawn raid on Saturday, in which agents were shown breaking down the door of Boluarte's home in dramatic television footage. However, it said other elements of interest for the investigation were obtained. In response to the summons, Boluarte on Sunday requested to have her investigative statement taken immediately in order to clarify the facts under investigation as soon as possible and not on 5th April as planned. In a statement released through her attorney, she said the request was due the political turbulence that has been occurring. She did not confirm whether she would comply with the request to present the Rolex watches. US authorities working on the Baltimore bridge collapse have opened the first of two small temporary channels for ships helping clean up the site of the catastrophe. Officials said these channels will initially only be open to smaller vessels involved in the Francis Scott Key Bridge cleanup operation and will not be big enough to allow cargo and container ships to pass through. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said the first of this channel opened yesterday and the second, slightly deeper channel will be open in the coming days. The first temporary channel has a depth of at least 11 feet, a 264-foot horizontal clearance and vertical clearance of 96 feet. The opening of the temporary route will help the authorities to get more vessels in the water around the site of the collapse. This will allow more workers to pitch into it the mammoth task of clearing the harbour of the bridge, which was destroyed in second last Tuesday when out-of-control cargo ship struck it, killing 6 people. The authorities hope that removing the bridge by cutting it into smaller sections and lifting them out will help rescuers recover all the victims' body and eventually reopen the crucial shipping lane. 2 transits are scheduled through the first channel yesterday evening for barges and tugs to come and get out of the port of Baltimore so they can bring stuff in the future. Cannabis aficionados lit up in Germany yesterday as the country became the largest EU nation to legalize recreational use despite fierce objections from opposition politicians and medical associations. Under the first step in the much debated new law, adults over 18 are now allowed to carry 25 grams of dried cannabis and cultivate up to 3 marijuana plants at home. The changes leave Germany with some of the most liberal cannabis laws in Europe, alongside Malta and Luxembourg, which legalized recreational use in 2021 and 2023 respectively. The Netherlands, known for its permissive attitude to the drug, has in recent years taken a stricter approach to counter cannabis tourism. According to police, some 1,500 people cheered in central Berlin by the Brandenburg Gate, with some lighting up joints in celebrations as the law took effect at midnight. Responding in part to criticism leveled against the legalization of cannabis, Health Minister Karl Lauterbach said the new law was better for real addiction help, prevention for children and young people, and for combating the black market. As a next step in the legal reform, from 1st July, it will be possible to legally obtain weed through cannabis clubs in the country. These regulated associations will be allowed to have up to 500 members each and will be able to distribute up to 50 grams of cannabis per person per month. French investigators have found the remains of a toddler who went missing last year in an alpine village in a case that shocked the nation. The prosecutor's office said they are working to determine the cause of death. 2.5-year-old Emile Solil was vanished on 8 July last year while staying with his grandparents. 2 neighbors last saw him walking alone on a street in Le Vernet, 1,000 meters up in the French Alps. Prosecutor Jean-Luc Blechon said genetic testing had shown they were the boy's remains. The prosecutor added the police were carrying out new searches in the area where the body was found. A roadblock had been set up on the only road into Le Vernet on Sunday. Emile disappeared the day after he arrived in the village to stay with his maternal grandparents for the holidays. Investigators said at the time of the little boy was wearing a yellow t-shirt, white shorts and tiny hiking shoes. Police have started a criminal investigation into a possible abduction. The possibilities of an accident or a fall have also remained open. Police since last Thursday returned to the village, condoning of the area and summoning 17 people, including family members, neighbors and witnesses, to reenact the last moments before he went missing. Drones flew overhead in the drizzle to capture footage of the reenactment, but there was no news of any major development. Next in sports, Siva Sangari clinches London Classic titles. Stay with us. National squash athlete S. Siva Sangari made history at the London Classic last night in an 11-9, 5-11, 13-11, 12-14, 11-8 victory over Hania El Hamami of Egypt in a final that lasted 81 minutes. It was the world's number 13 second win over Hania in 6 meetings. The 2022 Hangzhou Asian Games champion opened the game by securing the first set 11-9. However, Hania did not let up easy as she managed to tie the score 1-1 after winning the second set 11-5. Siva Sangari then broke the tie by bagging the third set before the second seed tied once again with 14-12 win. Into the fifth set, the match was getting dramatic when Hania managed to recover and stole the set from Siva Sangari. The world number 13 unrelenting spirit shone through when she finally defeated the Egyptian to clinch the London Classic title. En route to the final, Siva Sangari defeated world number 1 Noor El Sherbini of Egypt in the quarterfinals and world number 4 Nel Gillis of Belgium in the semi-finals. The title might see her break into the world's top 10 for the first time in her career. In tennis, Dominic Thiem battled hard to clinch an opening win at the Millennium Australian Open. The Australian notched a 6-1, 6-7, 6-4 victory against Maximilian Martha to reach the second round at the Portuguese ATP 250. After he made a fast start to the match, Thiem recovered well from a disappointing second-set tiebreak display to claim his second tour-level win of the year following a Davis Cup victory for Austria in February. Thiem converted 6 of 12 break points he earned en route to improving his Lexus ATP head-to-head lead against Martha to 3-love. The 17-time tour-level titleist will next take on a fellow former top 10 star, Frenchman Richard Gasquet. Prior to the tournament, Thiem had announced on social media that he was going to train with reduced intensity after he suffered a minor recurrence of his old wrist injury that sidelined him from 9 months across 2021 and 2022. Elsewhere, wildcard Caroline Wozniacki delivered a statement win on her return to a happy hunting ground at the Credit One Charleston Open, routing lucky loser McCartney Kessler 6-love, 6-1 in just 61 minutes. The result was Wozniacki's first win on clay courts since her most recent appearance in Charleston in 2019 when she reached the third of her 3 finals to date. University of Florida alumna Kessler has enjoyed a smooth rise up the rankings since turning pro, improving from number 825 this time last year to her current number 122 and winning her first WTA 125 title in Puerto Vallarta in February. But she was unable to prevent a near-flawless Wozniacki from opening and closing the match with 2 6-game streaks. The former world number 1 did not allow Kessler to hold serve once she motored to her most dominant win by scoreline of her comeback from a maternity leave. Kessler missed 2 points to hold in each of her first 2 service games, setting the tone for a contest in which Wozniacki gave nothing away. Wozniacki fired 18 winners to 13 unforced errors and won all 10 of her net points. Kessler, by contrast, committed 20 unforced errors to only 4 winners. The German Football Association DFB said on Monday it would change the typeface used on its shirts after one of the kit numbers drew comparisons to a Nazi symbol. The number 4, worn by national team players, was said to bear a resemblance to the insignia of the Nazis' elite SS Corps. In a statement, the DFB said they have checked the number 09 and then submits to numbers 126 to UEFA for review. None of the parties involved saw any proximity to Nazi symbolism in the creation process. Nonetheless, the sporting body said it did not want to provide a platform for discussion. Kit provider Adidas removed shirt personalization options for the German strip from its website on Monday afternoon. Shirts with the number 44 were at the center of the controversy, with the number set said to look most like the SS logo. Deliveries of shirts already ordered with the number had been stopped. The DFB caused a stir last month when it announced that it would be replacing Adidas as its kits provider from 2027. The German outfitter, which has supplied the national team since the 1950s, will make way for US sportswear giant Nike. Joseph Schooling, who famously beat his idol Michael Phelps in Rio to become Singapore's first and only Olympic champion, said Tuesday he was retiring from competitive swimming. Schooling made the announcement on social media 8 years after stunning the world by beating American great Phelps to win 100-meter butterfly gold. Schooling failed to qualify the same event at Tokyo 2020 and his career started to ebb after winning gold medals in the 50-meter and 100-meter butterfly at the 2018 Asian Games in Jakarta. Doubts were cast on his future when he pulled out of last year's Asian Games and Southeast Asian Games, saying he was not at the level to do his best. Schooling, who performed 2 years of mandatory military service, was mired in controversy in 2022 after confessing to taking cannabis overseas. Singapore has some of the toughest drugs laws in the world, and citizens can face up to 10 years in prison if found to have consumed illegal substances outside the city-state. Schooling was given a warning and placed on a supervised urine test regime for 6 months. He was also made no longer eligible for leave to train or compete during his military service. Schooling said he was now going to work with 2 venture capital partners in the health and wellness, tech and sustainability sectors.
Kementerian Perdagangan Dalam Negeri dan Kos Sara Hidup KPDN sedang mengadakan program jualan ramah madani di semua kawasan Parlimen dan Dewan Undangan Negeri. Anda boleh dapatkan barangan keperluan harian pada harga yang berpatutan dan diskaun sehingga 30%. Datuk nak pergi mana ni?
Pastinya ke program jualan rahmah madani. Kepada anda yang ingin mendapatkan maklumat, tarikh dan lokasi penganjuran program jualan rahmah madani di sekitar anda, sila layari portal KPDN. Jangan lepaskan peluang ini. Jom kita nikmati diskaun 10 hingga 30% dalam PJR Madani.
Macam-macam ada. Rahmah itu
berkat.
That ends our bulletin today. Wrapping up with a recap of our top story. Israel strike kills 11 on Syria consulate annex. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm SAHIH. Stay tuned to TV2.